November 10th, 2015. Ms. Lucina?
I wish to make the following announcement to show compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, known as Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of New Jersey, 1975. Notice of this meeting was given by adopting an annual schedule of the location, time, and date, sending copies to the Scotch Plains Fanwood Times, the Star Ledger, and the Courier News, posting in the municipal building, and filing a copy with the Township Clerk within 7 days following the annual organizational meeting of this body. If everyone would please rise for the pledge to the flag and remain standing for our invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing.
In gratitude, thank you, Father, for having created us and given us to each other in the human family. Thank you for being with us in all our joys and sorrows, for your comfort in our sadness, your companionship in our loneliness. Thank you for yesterday, today, tomorrow, and the whole of our lives. Thank you for friends, for health, and for grace. May we live this in every day conscious of all that has been given to us. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Councilwoman. Ms. Lucina, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Checchio?
Here.
Mr. Del Sordi?
Here.
Mrs. Giovanella?
Here.
Mr. Jones?
Here.
Mayor Glover?
Here. Ladies and gentlemen, next item on our agenda is public comment. Anyone wishing to address this council, please do so by coming forward to the microphone, stating your name and address. Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Thurman Simmons, Ruby Simmons. We live at 1597 St. Anne Street, right here in Scotch Plains. As chair and co-chair of the John Shippen Memorial Golf Foundation, we embarked on an initiative for a U.S. postal stamp to honor John Shippen, who, of course, was the first American and the first African American to play in a U.S. golf tournament back in 1896. We've come to the mic today to thank Mayor Glover enormously for all of his support, the town manager, Mr. Marabelli, and the town council for your support in helping us in our initiative to give honor to John Shippen on the U.S. postal stamp. We'd also like to thank the USGA, members of the Preserve Shady Rest Committee, the John Shippen Youth Golf Academy, their coaches, their assistant coaches, the parents, and many Scotch Plains citizens, friends, and family who supported us. We received a letter on November 3rd from the Citizen Stamp Advisory Committee in Washington, D.C., and I'd like to read that to you. The John Shippen Memorial Golf Foundation, attention Thurman P. Simmons, Sr. and Ruby L. Simmons. Thank you for submitting stamp petitions to the Citizen Stamp Advisory Committee expressing your continued support for the issuance of stamp honoring golf professional John Shippen. The Advisory Committee reviewed this nomination at a previous meeting. After careful deliberation, they decided not to recommend stamp issuance. The committee is responsible for reviewing stamp proposals and making recommendations to the Postmaster General. A limited number of stamp subjects are chosen for each yearly stamp program. Unfortunately, a vast majority of suggestions were submitted, including many meritorious and meaningful subjects. This proposal can be resubmitted after a 3-year waiting period in April 2018. We again would like to thank everyone for their dedicated support of the John Shippen U.S. Stamp Initiative, and we will be back in 2018 to continue this important initiative. Thank you very much.
Hear, hear.
Thank you.
And Ms. Simmons, we will be here offering our support. Once again, I can tell you that while the post office, they didn't recognize the value of making this stamp. They will one day. But I will assure you, this community on Saturday will proclaim a ceremonial sign be installed, as many of us know here, at the Shady Rest or at the Scotch Hills Golf Club, which will memorialize the great Mr. Shippen, America's first professional golfer, an African-American. And this will take place on this Saturday, November 14th, 11 a.m. Everybody is invited to come out. This is going to be a very special occasion and long overdue, and I'm proud to be part of that ceremony along with the Shippen, along with you all, the Simmons, and others. We will meet again soon.
Thank you, Mayor, for all of your enormous support. You have been a gem in moving this forward, and we thank you.
You're very kind. I've had some great partners, as you alluded to many of them. Okay. Anyone else would like to come forward? Seeing no one, I thought Mr. Terry might come forward, who is in our conference session upstairs. So I'm going to just steal his thunder and remind everybody tomorrow is Veterans Day, and Mr. Terry is going to come forward and share with us.
Yes, I'm Pete Terry, 1421 Norway Road, Scotch Plains. As I mentioned at the conference meeting, hope everybody recognizes the importance of tomorrow, 11/11/11, the armistice in World War I, November 11th at 11 a.m. The VFW Post and the American Legion Post are having ceremonies at the our war memorial and at the pavilion out in the corner. Wish everybody to come out and show their respect and support for the services of all our veterans. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Terry, for staying with us.
I thought I could only speak on something that was on the agenda.
Nah, when it comes to our veterans, we'll break any rule on
All
that.
right,
And look
thank
forward
you.
to seeing you tomorrow. It will be a beautiful ceremony. It always is. And as Mr. Terry said, everyone is invited to come out and show respect for our veterans, all those who served, those missing in action, and those who paid the ultimate sacrifice. Tomorrow, 11 o'clock, by the War Memorial, right outside of the stage and across from the gazebo. So thank you on that account. Next on our calendar right now is we have a presentation of recognition. We have two of them. Deputy Mayor will lead us in the first resolution, the November being the National Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Month, and then the second one I'll be reading, recognizing once again the John Shippen.
In 2015, whereas in 2015 nationally, about 48,960 people will be diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. A National Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Month educates men and women about the importance of certain risk factors for developing pancreatic cancer. And whereas approximately 24,840 men and 24,120 women will be diagnosed with pancreatic cancer this year, and 40,560 people, 20,710 men, and 19,850 women will die of pancreatic cancer this year. And pancreatic cancer accounts for about 3% of all cancers in the United States and accounts for 7% of all cancer deaths. And the average lifetime risk of developing pancreatic cancer is about 1 in 67. And as we observe National Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Month, we pause to remember all those who are fighting this disease, including families and friends, advocates, researchers, and healthcare professionals, as well as all those have lost to pancreatic cancer. And whereas research, early detection, and awareness are essential to our nation's fight against pancreatic cancer. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Mayor Kevin Glover, and the Township of Scotch Plains proclaim November National Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Month and November 13, 2015, National Pancreatic Cancer Day in the Township of Scotch Plains as we raise public awareness of pancreatic cancer risk
and the importance of talking to your healthcare providers. That actually is very informative. I think that's a disease that's typically associated with men, and obviously the numbers are
Speak for themselves.
fairly equal there.
Well, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Cancer survivor yourself. We'll present that to you
Thank you.
folks. The next presentation, recognition, will honor John Shippen, and we will be presenting on Saturday, as I just mentioned, a memorial sign will be erected and unveiled at the Shady Rest. So allow me to read what we will officially present to the Shippens in framed form, and not to the Shippens, to the Simmons. Proclamation. Whereas this resolution, I thought I was going to do better with my glasses. Whereas this resolution is to place a ceremonial sign at as an appropriate memorial to the life and legacy of John Shippen, the first American and first African-American golf professional. Whereas John Shippen, at the age of 16, competed in the U.S. Open held at Shinnecock Hills Country Club, Long Island, New York, in 1896, while placing tied for 5th place, and competed in 4 more U.S. Opens, 1899, 1900, 1902, and 1913, again, finishing tied for 5th in 1902 at Garden City Golf Club in Garden City, Long Island. Whereas, always rejected as a player and a teacher, Mr. Shippen competed on the United Golfers Association, the UGA circuit, in the 20s and 30s, and worked as a golf professional in Washington, D.C., Maryland, New Jersey, and New York, and that from 1913 to 1915 served as a private golf instructor, and from 1918 to 1920 as greenskeeper at the National Golf Links in Southampton. Whereas John Shippen found his permanent home and a position as greenskeeper and head pro at Shady Rest Golf and Country Club, the first African-American owned golf and country club in America, and for that matter, the world. The club, now known as Scotch Hills, was the birthplace of African-American golf, having hosted the first national competition for African-American golfers tournament in 1925. Whereas the rigidly segregated game of golf had a profound effect on the direction of Mr. Shippen's life and professional golfing career, as he was denied a PGA card, a prerequisite at most clubs for a position of pro. Whereas John Shippen's legacy, unappreciated for years, has rightfully and at long last gained focus. In 2013, at the 93rd annual meeting in New Orleans, Louisiana, the Professional Golf Association, PGA of America, bestowed posthumous membership, a PGA card, to Shippen, along with 3 African-American golf pioneers, all who were denied the opportunity to become PGA members during their professional careers. The United States Golf Association has solidified Mr. Shippen's place in golf history as the first American and the first African-American golf professional. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Kevin Glover, the mayor of the Township of Scotch Plains, and the Township Council recognize that Mr. Shippen is an embodiment bestowing historical significance to Shady Rest and the Township of Scotch Plains, do hereby authorize the placement of a ceremonial sign at the main parking entrance to the Scotch Hills Country Club on Jerusalem Road, to be designated as John Shippen Drive. Once again, this sign, this ceremonial sign, will be placed this Saturday, November 14th at 11 o'clock. We look forward to seeing you all there. Thank you. Thank you again to the Simmons for all the work you've done, because none of this would have happened None of this would have happened. The recognition of Mr. Shipman and certainly his place in the history of our town without the two of you working passionately for 3 decades to bring to the attention to the American public, to our community, our state, our nation, his contribution. So we are grateful to you. And while you bestowed these wonderful compliments on myself and this governing body, it is you who should be complimented and thanks. Thank you. Okay. Moving right along, look forward to seeing everybody Saturday. Please come out. I think we're going to have some food and drink as well, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, may I have a motion for the approval of our council minutes, Deputy Mayor?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion for the approval of the conference minutes on October 6th, 2016.
Is there a second?
And
Okay, I'm sorry.
No,
You
that's
have one
okay.
more.
And the business meeting minutes of October 20th, 2015.
Is there a second?
October 6th, not the 16th, and I'll second it.
I agree with him. It's going to be October 6th. We've been in a long session today, and I've got to tell you, even with my glasses, I've been having problems. It's a stressful day. Conference meeting minutes of October 6th, 2016, and the business meeting minutes of October 20th, 2015. We in agreement, Mr. Del Sordi?
Yes.
So we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next up is our manager's report. Mr. Marabella, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and members of council. I want to start by introducing a new member of the Township family. That's Margaret Heisey, who's joined the Township effective yesterday to help with human resources, purchasing, and project management. So welcome, Margaret. I want to thank all the volunteers for a great Halloween event, and I don't want to steal anybody else's thunder. However, I do want to say a particular thank you to Councilwoman Checchio, Joanne Glover and the Cultural Arts and Community Events Committee, Maureen LaCosta, the Business Association for the ice cream, which was, even though it was a little cold, I still had a bar, a toasted almond bar.
One?
Just one, Mayor. All the donors and the business community who really stepped up and contributed to candy for the kids. There was, hundreds of children, a wonderful event. I do want to encourage the residents who may be watching this or in the audience to check out our website, Scotch Plains Township website, and look at some of the videos that are there. They're really well done. I know Councilman Jones was there with his family. The mayor certainly gave some great interviews. Councilwoman Checchio, all the council members there, Councilman Del Sordi, the deputy mayor. It was great to see the fire department, the first aid squad, the police department participating. Rossi's Funeral Home. I mean, it was just a wonderful event and a great tradition for Scotch Plains. I look forward to this tradition continuing for many, many years. Last night, Mayor, as you know, I participated on the technology committee meeting and had our IT service provider come and give an update on the township's IT support, which is going extremely well. I'm very happy with the progress that group has made so far. And just a kind of an update, we will have a presentation at our next business meeting, that's December 15th, on our affordable housing plan update. And there's been interest on many members of council to get an update. I'm having Jill Hartman, who the township hired to develop our plans for COA, and she'll be giving an update. I sent an executive summary to the mayor and council, and there's an update coming from Jill Hartman. I too, Mayor, am looking forward to the events of Saturday, and in addition to the John Shippen ceremonial sign unveiling, there's also going to be the Scotch Plains Senior Citizen Housing Corporation is going to be having their event, their anniversary. I think this is the 20th anniversary coming up on that day as well. So I'm looking forward to participating in both of those events Saturday. I will update the mayor and council that just today we had harassment training for the management team, an ongoing education series that I'm implementing in the township. Today was the management team, the directors, chiefs, and in the next coming weeks, the township employees will split between 2 different sessions. I think it's important to continue to raise the awareness on avoiding harassment and not putting the township in any kind of liability, and that's going to be an ongoing series of training events. Lastly, Mayor, I have a short report tonight. The 2015 Best Practices document has been developed. It's a yearly exercise from the state. They ask for questionnaires. I'm happy to report that the township exceeded the minimum amount necessary to receive full funding from the state in 2016, and I'm looking forward to continuing to develop our budget, which is in full swing. The township directors have submitted their budget, and we're going to start having some meetings in anticipation for 2016. That concludes my update, Mr. Mayor.
Well, thank you for that thorough and yet brief update, and we look forward to seeing our budget. As with last year's, very early on, I think you broke a couple of records, if not the record, in getting it presented and us, the council, approving it.
Thank you, Mayor.
So we'll strive for that again, and the fact that you're working on it tells me you'll probably beat last year's objective. We have reports of special committees. I know there are some folks who have some things they want to share with us, so
I do.
Councilwoman.
Okay. The Cultural Arts and Special Events Committee held our first annual Halloween celebration. This was a great event. We had our first trunk and treat, hayride, family photo booth, scarecrow and costume contest. I want to thank everyone that volunteered from the Cultural Arts: Joanne Glover, Irene Bartels, Sylvia Hicks, Leah Zara, Valerie Grasso, Mayor Glover. A special thank you to Maureen LaCosta for co-hosting this event with me. Our merchants really helped make this day a special one. I want to thank our businesses that helped sponsor this event: ERA Suburban, Hung's Cuisine, Bramnick, EKA, State Farm, ERA Queen City, Snuffy's, Investor Savings, Park Liquor Store, Slot Coin Shop, John's Meat Market, Comic Book Store, Winter Hill Antique Shop, Main Star Chinese, Pro Cleaners, Urban Shave, Able Body Spa, Florence Ravioli, Apple Blossom, and the Bearded Barbara. A special thank you to the Scotch Plains Business Association for sending that ice cream truck. The ice cream truck was a very big hit, and Bernadette from Rossi's Funeral Home definitely won Best Car, or Hearst, should I say. Our next event will be the holiday celebration on December 6th that the Business Association hosts. This year, we'll be having Christmas tree decorating. If you would like your organization to participate and decorate a Christmas tree, the forms will be available in the manager's office and online. As the liaison to the Historic Documentation Committee, I would also like to announce that we received a $40,000 historical grant. We also received a $65,000 kids grant from the county. This will be used to fund the Terry Lou Zoo property that we will start working on shortly. Back to the historic documentation, we will be using some of these funds towards historical documentation signs to educate people on our historical sites. The Rotary received a preserve grant for the Frazee House of $25,000, and we also received a greening grant in the award of $2,500. I would also like to personally thank the Recreation Department for working on the Brookside Trail. This trail really looks great, and there's definitely a huge improvement. Our staff has done a tremendous amount of work at the site to clean up the trail. Our staff has put down stone on much of the trail, as well as widened the actual trail walkway. They have laid seed down as well to hopefully regrow some of the grass there. The next step will be to limb up some of the branches that encroach on it, as well as the removal of a couple of trees. For the recreation, the ski program, still taking a wait list for all the teens in Scotch Plains and Fanwood to possibly run a third bus. Registration can be done online or in person for the wait list. Once again, on wait list, which we're close, we'll run a third bus up to Shawnee. Kindergarten through second grade basketball clinic, registration opens December 1st, runs Monday nights at Evergreen School. More information will be posted on the website next week. The fee is $80, limited to $25 per grade. I would also like to thank Michelle Willis from the library for working with me on a senior technology program that I've been working on with the senior advisory. We worked together and offered our seniors a technology course. This was our first pilot iPad course that we offered our seniors. We started with 2 sessions. Our first class was yesterday, and we hope to be able to offer more programs like this in the future.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Terrific report. And let me say, on a personal note, thank you for bringing Halloween back to Scotch Plains. I mean,
fun.
thousands of people attended that event, and what a boost was it for, our businesses downtown, and certainly what an uplifting event it was
All
for
the
all our
dentists,
citizens.
too?
All the dentists, too, and for our waistline, right, Mr. Bella?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's you too, Mayor.
Well,
Yeah, it was fun.
we had, you know what? I have a lot of fun. I really did. Next up, Deputy Mayor, you have
So I
something?
just wanted to call the public's attention to the recent election results, which included a new member for the Board of Education, as there was also a recent seat replacement filled, and I just want the town to continue to make sure that they're staying informed. There's also a new elementary school report card, and the district has been very diligent in hosting a number of events so that parents can stay aware of that. They really are to be credited for the number of outreach events that they do hold. I wanted to also just comment that we will have our community development block grant hearing on the morning of the 20th, I believe, in this building, and the time for that is 10 a.m. 10 a.m. Okay, and that will be advertised as well. I really want to commend Mr. Marabella for aggressively seeking opportunities to apply for that grant. Having asked many times since sitting up here, I was told that we were not eligible, and I do not believe that to be true, and I'm hoping that we do well through that application process.
Thank
and
you.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have a hearing tomorrow. We have a meeting tomorrow night. A great group of people. I also just did want to share some news, and I was waiting to hear if you shared it in your manager's report. The Scotch Plains actually does have a food store. For the record, it's not the food store that you may wish it to be at the moment, but the Union County Vocational Technical Schools does run a supermarket science program, and the ribbon cutting for the food store is this week. And it is an opportunity where residents can go and take advantage, and there's a bakery there as well. And we've discussed the possibility of maybe facilitating some information so that the community is more aware of some of the resources that are available, particularly the seniors. So that's really all that I have.
Well, that's really terrific, and certainly bringing attention to the VOTEC folks. Again, because I have a sweet tooth, they also make one heck of a cake.
They do.
And the cookies they provided for
Excellent.
Halloween, they're
They were
very
really good.
super. We should be proud. I mean, one of the finest institutions in the United States of America of educating our youth. So, well done. Anyone else have some comment? If not, I have just 2 that I'd like to share. Believe it or not, plans are underway already for the 2016 Mayor's Charity Gala. Nominations are being accepted for Male Volunteer of the Year, Female Volunteer of the Year, and Volunteer Organization of the Year. If you would like to nominate someone or an organization, I ask that you do so by contacting the manager's office, and they will provide you with a nomination form. I think we're even going to put one online for the folks to be able to do that there as well. We'll put something up on TV 34 and 22 so that folks should know what's going on. Last year's gala was an amazing success. I mean, probably the largest one that I can ever recall. Well, almost 225 guests showed up, and we raised some good money for some wonderful, deserving people and causes. We expect to do that and even exceed that this year. So stay tuned, but get your nominations in. Next, I'd like to point out that on Saturday, November 28th, after Thanksgiving 2015, is Small Business Saturday, a day to celebrate and support small businesses and all they do for their communities, our community. So please join us in supporting our local merchants by shopping, dining, or just dropping in to say hi in downtown Scotch Plains, Saturday, November 28th. Last year, I know several of our council folks were there promoting it and just doing good work for the community. Help your local merchants. If you want a better downtown, it begins with shopping in our downtown. and eating in our town, of which we have both reputable and wonderful things to purchase and to eat at, and a lot of great eateries. Okay, no other comments? Then I'm going to ask that we get a motion on the new business consent agenda.
Mayor, I'd like to move the new business consent agenda, items number 2015-200 through items number 2015-208.
Is there a second?
Second.
Does anybody have any questions? Not hearing any, may I ask for a roll call?
Mrs. Checchio?
Aye.
Mr. Del Sordi?
Aye.
Mrs. Giovanella?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mayor Glover?
Aye. Thank you. Other new business, may I have a motion on the bill list, please?
Mayor, I'd like to move the bill list in the amount of $6,375,477.51.
Is there a second? Please, I second.
I'll second it with a correction, 447.
I'm
is
telling
with
you,
you
it's
tonight?
a long night tonight. Good for you,
I gotta
Councilman.
take care of Bonnie.
What did
I
I
had to
say?
take the glasses off, put them on. I'm struggling, and so is the deputy mayor tonight.
478.
Don't make that mistake
I'm
again.
paying my more than what Al.
She's checking it. She doesn't
Gotta have the
believe
right
him.
number.
Bigger fonts next time. Bigger
you, Rob.
fonts.
A second.
I second. With that, I haven't heard any requests for explanation, so can we have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Checchio?
Aye.
Mr. Del Sordi?
Aye.
Mrs. Giovanella?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mayor Glover?
Aye, aye. There we go. Up on the calendar, the agenda again now is second opportunity for public comment. You may comment on anything that you would like.
I'll repeat, Terry, 1421 Royal Road, Scotch Plains. While sitting here for a couple hours, I had a chance to recollect some things, especially about Armistice Day. My dad was a World War I veteran, and he was a combat soldier, and he was there on the 11/11/11. And he belonged to an outfit that we call the Flash and Sound Rangers. They were a forward outfit that the original observation technology was 3 outposts at the front lines, about 200 yards apart, and they were set up to plot the flash of a German weapon in at night, and if they take the 3 angles and triangulate it where the lines come together, that was where the German piece was. And in the daytime, they would do the same thing with sound. And my dad said the word came down about midnight that the war was over. And he said shortly after midnight, both sides started firing all their weapons. And he said he claims that was probably part of his hearing loss, that they stuffed everything they could think of in their ears, and it went on for 11 hours. And at the strike of 11 o'clock in the morning, it was just silence. And the silence was shocking, that it just stopped. And he was always very impressed with that happening. So I just wanted to impart that little personal thing on Armistice Day. That's what I think about on Armistice Day. Thank you.
Mr. Terry, thank you for sharing this heartfelt story with us. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, your family lost someone.
Yes, he lost his brother.
You may want to come back and just share that. You shared that wonderful story with me over at the Legion, where your dad's uniform is displayed proudly. He was a lot thinner than you.
His brother had been drafted shortly before he enlisted, and he spent 18 months trying to catch up with his brother. And it was during the St. Mihiel offensive, and they were in a little town called Thiaucourt in France. And he ran into a friend from town, and he said, have you heard anything about Herb? He says, yes, his outfit's up the road, and we'll go up tomorrow. And they went up the next day, and that's September the 25th, so it's a month and a half before the end. And he found out his brother had been killed 2 days before. And of course, they didn't have traumatic post-stress syndrome at the time, but he did. And when he came home, he said he couldn't get along with the family. He was all jumpy and everything, so he packed up and went out to South Dakota for a year, and basically was by himself on this farm. And that winter they had like 11 feet of snow, and they had a tunnel to the barns and things to take care of the animals, and if you wanted to see the daylight, you went up on the roof. So after that, come the next year, when, at the end of the summer, he said, I don't think I want to stay here, and then he came back and rejoined his, normal surroundings, but it was very, very traumatic on him, and he never forgot, and that's why every Armistice Day, every Veterans Day, rather, every Memorial Day, every 4th of July, when we were this high, right on up, we were at some kind of event. And he was a charter member of the American Legion Post in North Plainfield. So I've been inducted into patriotism all my life, so thank you.
Mr. Terry, thank you for sharing that with this community. And today, we remember and we value and we understand your loss. We'll see you tomorrow. We will see you tomorrow. As you've shared with me, not just a saying, freedom is not free.
That's a wonderful story, Mr. Terry. And yes, for all our servicemen who have fought in wars or served our country, they do deserve a lot of praise and recognition. I only have 2 or 3 questions, and it's on the resolutions. I don't have the answers. I'm hoping you can just briefly tell me. On the employment litigation and on the lawyer that's hired for an employee in the police department, do we have insurance to cover any of this?
Which particular one are you speaking to?
Number 206?
Okay. No, there's no insurance to cover that particular litigation.
And number 202?
No, that's paid from legal funds developed for the township. It's for a hearing officer, for the potential for grievances to be heard.
Okay. And on the cancellation of the stale dated checks, is everybody aware? I mean, I saw the list of names, and apparently someone in this room is on that list.
It's probably me.
Oh. Well, this is regular housekeeping, and some council members don't cash their checks as much as they
The council checks are not, sometimes they,
No. Oh, okay. Okay, that's what it was. But I didn't know if she was aware that she had money.
well, if it's Mrs. Chacchio, I'm not going to fess up here. I'm going to point the finger.
Thank you.
Could be either of you.
I know.
I thought it was you.
I'm direct depositing.
Okay, well, anyway, thank you. Seeing no one else coming forward, I'm going to ask the council if, we've done public comment. Any council comments?
I just have, just really briefly, I'm so happy that Veterans Day was mentioned. I'm going to apologize in advance. I won't be at the ceremonies during the day tomorrow. But the good news for me is that our school is in session. And I think that it's a wonderful thing when schools are in session for events like Veterans Day, because it gives teachers an opportunity to really provide instruction specific to that topic. Sometimes when schools are closed, what happens is it becomes a day off, and the recognition of the importance of that event is not what occurs. But I would also like to encourage everyone. There is a wonderful campaign that's gains a lot of traction through social media, and it's the Green Light a Veteran campaign. It's really an awareness event, and it's a way to show appreciation. I know the Marabella House is all lit up green, the Gellinella House is all lit up green, and I'm sure some of you have taken those steps as well. I was excited that the green light bulbs were sold out this weekend. The more residents that can take advantage of really showing support. What I think about is that a number of our police officers are veterans, and when they're driving around at night, it must be wonderful for them to see so many houses in Scotch Plains with green lights turned on in support of the service that they've given our country. My father's a veteran. He was a veteran in the Vietnam War, And when I hear his stories, he doesn't talk about war, but he does talk about the reaction of the public when the vets came home, and it wasn't a very positive one. So to be able to show support for him now is something that is very near and dear to my heart. So thank you, Mayor, very much for the opportunity to say that.
Thank you. Anybody else have a comment?
Yes, Mayor, a few comments. So this one I come back to fairly often. It wasn't in the manager's report, but I'll just mention it briefly. So I do appreciate very much, and I think it's a very good thing, that we have the new weekly town emails that go out, and included in those emails are the street listings for where the leaves are going to be picked up. And for anybody out there listening, if you haven't already signed up for the emails, go on the website, sign up for their emails. Two important communications. There's that, and for emergency things, there's the red alert. You should really be signed up for both of them.
Yep, thank you.
But specific to the leaf pickup, so we have this good mechanism now that it's getting out there, but what I observed on a personal level again this year was same as in past years. So the first pass, which is just about all completed now, came down my street. DPW did a nice job, picked up all the leaves. That very afternoon, numerous landscape crews came out, filled up both sides of the street, and it's single pass again, and it's probably going to sit that way until the next pass, which will probably be a number of weeks off, given that the leaves are really coming down quickly and in large volumes today. So my point mainly being that I appreciate the additional changes that were made this year and the enhanced communication, but I don't find it effective to accomplish the goal I'd like to see, which is that ultimately we can have people putting their leaves out in a time that's coordinated with the pickup so as to keep the streets clearer. So just a comment for maybe where we can that we can keep in mind as we think about what we can do to improve more next year. The next comment would be on sidewalk safety. So I see that the sidewalks in front of the municipal building were all redone, and there certainly were sections of that sidewalk that were broken and in need of repair. That being said, huge swaths of those sidewalks, in my opinion, were perfectly passable and good. In fact, they were bad before, and the DPW did a nice job of trimming a lot of those pieces down. And so we spent a lot of money, and I don't know how much money was spent in total on that project, but we spent a lot of money to repair good sidewalk, in my opinion. We made it aesthetically nicer, which is part of developing the downtown, but still a relatively, look, nobody comes downtown just for aesthetically pleasing sidewalks. We want safe sidewalks. So there was a lot of money spent on that, but there's still a lot of other areas in town, high traffic areas with really bad sidewalks that I'd hope we'd be able to do some more work on. And I do understand that tonight on Resolution 205, there may be still some more money available for that. So I'm still optimistic that some of those other areas can be addressed this year. The second issue on that sidewalk, which I'd urge management to take a look at, this was before Mr. Mirabella, this goes back to before you were manager, in all fairness, but last year we had a gentleman came in and his wife fell on the way out of the front doors here, and it has to do with the steps there, and I think you actually helped with putting up some of the new signage to help alleviate that, but we spent a lot of money to redo sidewalks out there, and would have seemed to me to have been an appropriate time to level that out so that there isn't that tripping hazard there. So again, if there's more funds available, I think that's something else that we might give consideration to, because I think, again, safety should be number one ahead of aesthetics. My final comment goes back to, I think it's the conference meeting in October. And in that meeting, Mr. Mayor, you had an agenda item where you suggested that the Township Council move forward with paid parking meters. And I believe your comments were to the effect that this was something that the business owners wanted, and that, you know, the rest of us presumably weren't in touch with the business owners if we didn't know this. So I went out and spoke with a whole bunch of the business owners in our town, walked down Park Avenue, asked them what their opinion was. And I think it was close to 20 businesses I spoke with, and all but one think that it's a terrible idea. In one case, there was an employee who said, well, maybe warm to the idea, but even there, the manager of that store said, absolutely not. So I didn't find this big demand for paid parking meters in the downtown. So frankly, I'd like it if you could give I'm sure you will respond to this, if you could give an explanation of who are these business owners that are demanding this, because I couldn't find them. And if they're not out there, or alternatively, you could retract the statement. I don't know if you want to respond to that now, or
This conversation will be continued. I mean, the fact that, are you asking me this, or are you asking?
I am asking you that because it
Well,
was.
you
it was,
can ask, but listen. Let me just clarify a couple of points here. You know, I guess the funny season has started already in 2015. But just to get back to this whole discussion about parking, no decision was made. What was discussed, okay, and yes, I've met several businesses that have come to me and have complained, and they've been outspoken, that, their patrons are unable to find parking in downtown. That if you come to the municipal building at 9 o'clock in the morning, you will find no parking, either in the municipal building or behind, let's say, John's Meat Market or behind Alfonso's Pizzeria. And that condition exists pretty much throughout the day. And it exists because people are using the lots from other municipalities, as we've, discovered, to park their cars and to go off into the city, which is why in our conference meeting, I've looked at opportunities and I'm pursuing with our governor and with the state transportation authority alternatives and potentially creating depots where commuters can park their car and not congest our lots to a point where it is detrimental to the businesses. The reality is, 9 o'clock in the morning, Mr. Jones, I challenge you to meet me on Monday morning to find big vacant open spaces in the downtown, and yet then proceed to Park Avenue and see how many people are shopping in those towns. It is a detriment to those businesses. A man wants to have his shoes repaired. Someone at lunch wants to have something to eat. And if you can't park your car, you're going to find elsewhere to go. Now, people aren't, silly. I mean, if I have to go to Westfield or to Fanwood and pay hundreds of dollars or whatever it is to park, and Scotch Plains makes this available for free, then I suspect people will come and park here for free. So we need to find the solution to that, and that's what I tried to articulate at our earlier meeting, in the conference meeting, which is to say, how can we facilitate better parking for our merchants and our businesses, our landlords, which I can't imagine you disagreeing that they wouldn't want, while at the same time...
I will respond to this, yes.
Well, I'm sure you will. It's that time of year, but I suspect that as well. I think you could appreciate that there is a better solution for safety reasons why, and you're nodding in agreement, so I think you would agree, why we need to address parking in the downtown and on North Avenue and on Mountainside, where people who own homes come out of their driveways and it's unsafe.
I'll respond now, if that's okay. So, first of all,
Absolutely.
I just want to push
I don't want
back
it to be
on
a lengthy debate. You know why, Mr. Jones? I don't want it to be a lengthy discussion. No, I'm sorry, Councilman, but the reason is, you could have had this discussion at the conference. You chose not to, and to do it here. That's okay, but I understand your motives behind why you're doing it. But I'm saying that be truthful to yourself, and that there is a problem. And that what we're trying to do is to find a solution. And I will allow you to speak, but please, enough with the grandstanding on this one.
First of all, if I'm not grandstanding...
Absolutely you are, sir.
Can I speak?
By all means, but absolutely you are.
You're sure you're done now?
I'm certain I'm done. I'm hoping you will be soon.
So, first of all, I want to push back on the notion that this is somehow silly season. After that came up at the meeting, I got a lot of feedback from people about it. And I imagine you got a lot of feedback about it too. So I think this is something...
And by the way, I get talked to probably more people with my mobile office than you do.
I guess I can't speak.
And the reality is, I didn't get this, overwhelming response, negative.
I'll try again.
Try again.
So, first I want to push back on the notion that this is a silly season issue. I got a lot of feedback from people who adamantly didn't like this idea of the paid parking. So it's not a silly season issue, it's a legitimate issue. Secondly, you're now trying to say that, well, you were just casting this as a parking issue. Well, I do agree there are some parking issues, but you didn't just cast it as a parking issue. Last time, you made a clear argument that we needed to install paid parking meters. Very different, because that's maybe just one potential solution amongst many that ought to be considered. as I traveled down Park Avenue speaking with a lot of different business owners, a big number of them didn't seem to think there was any issue. Some did have some issues with parking, and there was a consensus that came forward pretty clearly, and that was that on the back side of the lots over on the Park Avenue side, we have right now 2-hour parking, but we don't regularly enforce it. And it has been enforced from time to time in the past, but it hasn't been enforced recently. And so it would seem to me that before we jump to a conclusion that says, let's spend tons of money on parking meters and then tons of money on additional employees to enforce it, you do some modest level enforcement of existing regulations and see if you get success with that. Some of these, there is a bigger picture of it too in terms of Mountain Avenue, et cetera, but this is really just focused on the parking meters downtown. Your assertion that we had to push ahead with paid parking meters. And frankly, I would point out, Mr. Mayor, that, because again, you're trying to cast this conversation from last time somewhat differently than it was before. It was even the deputy mayor who agreed with my previous assertion that we should record what is said in those upstairs conference meetings so there's transparency and accountability for what people say. So you try and say that I'm grandstanding because I come down here and make the comments on the microphone. I come down here and make the comments on the microphone so that the comments get recorded and so that your comments get recorded.
Well, I'm certainly glad you do that, but the reality is, you've never picked up the phone to call me ever since you've been on council, other than the one day I did. Let me finish.
Simply not true.
I try not to interrupt you, and all I'm saying is that there is a legitimate problem with parking in this town. If you want to go into denial, that's okay. The fact of the matter is, Mr. Marabella and I have talked, and we have looked at all kinds of alternatives. We haven't drawn a conclusion. We think that that is a possible direction to go in. We also believe, we talked today earlier about installing 2-hour, 1-hour parking signs up there and enforcing it. All these things, you just assume that because we said that, that's what we're going to do. Well, Mr. Jones, that doesn't happen on this council because we couldn't do that in a vacuum. But what we do try to do, what I try to do as the mayor, is to put ideas out there, as I've done today with looking at the parking problems we have at the Fanwood Station, looking at the safety issues we have on North Avenue. As I did last time we met in discussing with you and with the council, just ideas. We call it a conference meeting. At a conference meeting, we're not making or setting policy, ladies and gentlemen. We're putting ideas out there that we can shoot down or we can embrace. The reality is we do have a problem in the downtown, and it needs to be corrected. And I will pursue, whatever means to ensure that our businesses have an opportunity to make as much money as they can by allowing their patrons convenient parking. And I certainly will make every opportunity to see that other residents in our town have streets and parking in front of their home that is safe. And lastly, that our commuters have an opportunity to have fair value parking at the train station in Fanwood, and I would hope you would endorse me on all of those fronts. So we don't have a finite solution yet. We have a work in progress, and if you want to debate a work in progress,
by all means, in progress, but can we at least shoot down the idea of parking meters for now?
Can I just?
Well, no, we haven't. Everything is up, Mr. Jones. Wouldn't you agree that? And why don't you put everything on the table to evaluate everything? Just as a suggestion, let's assume that if there were meters installed, and no one's made a decision, and if it would generate revenue that offset the cost to other residents for the maintenance of the parking lots, for that would include snow removal, icing, lighting, patrolling, would that be something that you might not consider?
If I saw a detailed presentation that included accurate and honest representations of potential revenue and the costs associated with it, of course I would consider it. But what I heard a month ago was we needed to install parking meters.
That's right, we need to investigate parking meters. I wish we did have a recording because I think we could call you out on many of these things. But you know what? We had a lovely meeting. It is.
The deputy mayor has a comment.
I just want to I wasn't planning on speaking to this tonight, but I just do want to address a couple things. I've heard similar feedback from the business owners that I've spoken to, similar to what Councilman Jones is reporting. And I do think that this is one of the reasons why at 5:30 when we interviewed the planners, we talked about having to have these stakeholder meetings because I think that too many conversations are happening in a vacuum, and what's happening is there's room for, I don't know. I don't know how to articulate this clearly. I just think it's a lot better in this particular case and in most cases when you just get everybody into a room and you talk about, you know, and you can see on these slides, I mean, what that is, that's effective strategic planning, that's community members getting to weigh in on what they're looking for, that's business owners getting to weigh in on what they're looking for. And it's all kinds of opportunity for us to get feedback. The one thing actually a couple things I want to be really adamant about. I'm not in favor of paid parking. I think I was made that pretty clear upstairs. I am in favor of looking through all possible scenarios, but the way to do that is to buy, guys, since June we've been talking about a downtown planner. December will be.
I think earlier in the year than that.
So we need to have a downtown planner appointed, and all of these issues need to be looked at systemically. The other piece that I'll say to you is that will have to come out of capital to pay for parking meters. You'll need 4 votes there. Those 4 votes don't exist, so don't worry about it.
And I wouldn't want you to lose sleep over it, either one of you lose sleep over it, because the reality is you're not characterizing this at all other than the way you choose to do it. Because as you listened to us that day, today, Mr. Jones, can you tell us what the parking regulations are for downtown?
Well, there's various.
No, what are they?
There's various regulations in various places.
Can you
so,
tell
for
me
example,
what they are? Try.
Sure, certainly. I mean, there are the ones on the back side over here where you're 2 hours up along the building, and you have no timed meters in the rows behind that. You've got 1 hour along the streets outside, and you've got no time in this lot over here.
So were you aware, because we did discuss it last time, that if a meter were being considered, that the first 2 hours in those same spots would be free by simply pushing a button, and that if you parked on Park Avenue or other one of those designated spots that are an hour today, they would be free, okay, for an hour, let me finish, and that your suggestion, and we looked at this only in the context that what would be more economical? Again, the intent is to create parking for our businesses. I think we'd all agree we need to do that. And quite frankly, Mr. Jones, I'll ask the citizens, the businesses, who they see more often downtown, me or you. I suspect it might be the former.
I have a full-time job.
But that said, we can compare notes later on that, and we can maybe even debate that.
Well, I'd like to answer the question you asked me.
But that said, just to be fair, so now the question, which Mr. Beller and all of us will have to embrace, is we have a problem. We need to look at all the alternatives. If one of the alternatives results in looking at putting up meters, but it really has no impact on someone who parks there today, other than, you have to enforce parking with a police officer, going around and chalking at, $90,000, where somebody's parked and then issuing summons. The point is, it was a discussion. It's out there for review. Apparently, you have decided to make this policy right now, which, ladies and gentlemen, it isn't. Just like many other things that get discussed at our conferences, we put ideas out there. We see which ones make sense for our community. And I will continue to do that. And you want to know something? Similarly to, last year's, your strong, ardent position that our 0% tax increase would cripple this town municipality. It didn't. The fact that our bond rating went up, where you and your colleagues who were no longer on this council insisted that we would go down the toilet with our bond rating.
You're changing the subject here to a whole other thing.
But the point is, we've heard lots from you over your tenure here. I wish over the 4 years, other than of late, that you might have made more contributions to this governing body and to this community with, recommendations. But that said...
So what are the next steps with the downtown planner?
I'm sorry, I was just personally attacked, and at the beginning of that lengthy statement, you asked me some questions. Can I now have an opportunity to respond to those questions?
And I don't think I'm personally attacking. I think I'm categorically stating fact.
So what are the next steps with the downtown planner?
If you're asking me or you're asking the manager, we will meet and we will convene and discuss.
My intention is to have it as a discussion item at the December 1st conference meeting, and ask for a decision on this council at some point about the direction.
Precisely.
Of which one to go with or how we want to proceed.
Do we have specific rates as far as what, I mean, can we get a spreadsheet or a table that really kind of gives us a line by line from all of the different providers? I know
Yes.
we've heard their presentations and they were excellent, and you've given us everything that they have, but if somebody could maybe put together a line, an analysis, that would be helpful leading up to that meeting. This way we could, you know.
Yeah.
I said it wouldn't happen until the new year, and here we are,
Exactly.
so.
So I was asked a question, I'd like a chance to respond to it. And the question the mayor asked me at the beginning of that comment was I aware of the fact that the suggestion was made a month ago that the meters would all have a punch button, then you get 2 hours free? Yes, absolutely, I heard that and I understood it. And I think I even commented on it. I said if you're going to do it, it would make sense to have something like that. That being said, my question is,
I don't believe
excuse me?
that. No, I don't ever recall. That's why you're right.
That's
We
why
really
it should be
recall those
recorded.
meetings,
Exactly right.
Because he absolutely didn't do it. I mean, this is getting long in the tooth now.
So my simple point would be...
Let me ask you, I want to move this meeting along.
You know what,
and the
forget
fact
it. If
that-
you're going to cut me off every time,
No,
forget it.
I really
I'm
would like to
done
move
with
the meeting, only
discussion.
because if you want to have, we will put this on discussion for conference, you know, at our next meeting, once again, if you would like, and you can bring all the force to bear on your position, but we will continue to evaluate this. We're not going to have a resolution today. If you're looking just to point to me and you hope that you're going to get out of this, and that's why I want to move it along, that I'm sorry, Mr. Jones, that was a stupid idea, you're 100% right. It ain't going to happen. That's not the way I've governed in 10 years here. And you know what? I work for the citizens, and I work to give them options. And some options are good, some options aren't bad, but we move forward on that. So if you would just indulge me and respect my request that we move on and, you know, ask the folks at home if they would like to call in.
I'd like
with
to
the
have
comment.
a comment, Mayor, if I may.
Okay.
Since we're still under council
Yes, we
comment.
are. We are. And forgive me because it looked like it was being...
I need a point of clarification, and I need to ask the attorney.
Did I make another mistake?
Under council comment, is it a debate session up here, or
Exactly
is it a
right.
council comment?
It's council comments.
Thank you. So we're entitled to give our opinion of something and not to interject and have a debate, okay? And I yield to my colleagues up here, please. We've been here for almost 4.5 hours, and I really appreciate your comments, and I appreciate everybody's input on a lot of these items, but I don't think myself and or the public wants to hear debate.
I agree with you.
So please.
Look, I'm willing to indulge
I-
the end of...
I- I-
could I speak?
And I'm not looking for anybody to comment back to me, please.
No.
Because I just want to make a few comments.
I think you're 100% right. It's council
Please, if I may, I
comments.
just want to make a few
It's
comments.
gone on a little long.
I would like to say that in our conference meetings, from what I was told when I first came on board here, is that it's a roundtable discussion. And to speak to the parking, I said to Mr. Marabella, my comment is, look into it. So how it got out to the public that all of a sudden we were putting paid parking in was, I don't know where that came from. And yes, it's a great idea to have them record it, because maybe that was somewhere along the line. Maybe I missed it. Maybe somebody did say, go out and hire somebody. But I don't think it was. I think it was something where we said, let's go out there and explore all the avenues. Somebody even said, go mark the tires and send the police officer around to give out tickets. So you know what? Hey, it's a conference meeting. We're supposed to be exploring avenues. Mr. Marabella, you're doing a fantastic job exploring all those avenues.
I think so too.
And now, one other comment, if I may, Mayor,
Yes.
is tomorrow is Veterans Day, and from the bottom of my heart, I thank all the veterans out there. Listen, I know people have to go to work, I know people have to go to school, they got to do what they got to do. They got to take a moment at 11 o'clock, they got to stop and think about the freedom that we have today. It's for those people. Thank a vet tomorrow. Please do yourself a favor. And my last comment will be, Thanksgiving is coming up. I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. It's the greatest holiday in America. And everybody up here should take that advice and enjoy Thanksgiving and give thanks for what you have.
I'll second that, Councilman Del
Let me
Sorte.
tell you, I couldn't agree, and you just stole my thunder, because I was hoping we could get back to a civil comment, which is to simply say, won't be back here until December. So with that, I want to extend to you and all your families a happy Thanksgiving, and to Veterans Day, 5 simple words, folks, that I ask you to share with any veteran and with any fellow woman you see in fatigues at Penn Station or at a bus terminal or in the street. 5 words. Thank you for your service. With that, I guess we need to move on and open it up for phone calls. I guess we should do that. It's 908-322-2076. If we don't hear anybody, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Not hearing the phone ring, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the
Is
meeting.
there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Well,
I withdraw my motion to adjourn the meeting.
Council Chambers.
Hi, my name is Connie Baruch, Evergreen Avenue, Scotch Plains. I just wanted to quickly say thank you for allowing our neighbors, Westfield Avenue, Henry Street, Evergreen Avenue, to have a concerns voiced at the last meeting, and for you to accept our petition because so many people could not make it to the meeting and they really wanted their voice heard. I just wanted to thank you for listening to us.
Well, I'm glad you came out. It's what our government should be all about. Opportunity to speak your mind, and thank you for your kind words.
Okay, thank you.
Good night, man. Happy Thanksgiving.
Bye-bye.
One more time. Motion to adjourn, please.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
We're out of here. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving.